Police spot that? Police bell.
So what is this car?
It's, I believe, 1943. It's a Railton. It was at the end of their production, and they made a few cars out of bits they had left over, because it's a 30s engine. So Railton's a British body on a Hudson chassis, an American Hudson chassis with a straight 8 flathead in it.
Okay.
And this was made for the Chief Inspector of Scotland Yard, apparently, which I believe to be true, because this, see that roof here, that's all got stuff underneath it,
yeah,
for radio suppression.
Okay.
Because it would have had a radio in it at some point for the police use. Yeah, the club's traced it all back. Apparently it is exactly what it was. They made, I think they built a few of them for the police. But basically this is probably one of the very last Railtons made. Because it was, like I say, it was made up out of bits they had left over from like pre-war production and stuff. So it probably would have had a driver, a bit like Foyle's War. I don't suppose they'd have driven themselves around. And in the back it's got a little bookcase and vanity mirror thing.
Oh yeah.
It's only on one side though, which makes you think it probably is just for one person. Not sure who made the body.
It's a pretty good neck, isn't it?
Not bad, not bad. A couple of dings and dents and stuff all over it, but I've completely rewired most of it. That's all the wire I cut out. They'd sort of like run, these were only wired up as brake lamps, these were only wired up as side lamps, but they should all work, but it wouldn't have had those originally. Taking out all the excess wire that was everywhere, that really, all it does is cause problems. So take all that out of the way. Rewired all the front end, because they run wires down this side that go over to that side, then back to this side, and things like that. It's just wasn't done very well, you know. It needs all new brakes, which we're doing. It's got a new carburetor. The radiator was damaged, so that was rebuilt. But I wanted to get all the wiring done before I put the front end back on it. So I'll do all the brakes now, get them sorted. The gearbox was a bit sticky. We've done that now. It had potential oil leaks, which I've done, because they're very low oil pressure, these engines. See that shape there? It dips down and goes back up again in the casting.
Oh right, yeah.
That inside the engine is a trough. These oil pressure, well, your average car on idle is 30 psi. These are about 6 psi.
Okay.
And you've got big scoops on the bottom of the con rods. As it goes through the oil in the sump, it flicks up the oil. The oil sits in those troughs and then drip feeds onto parts of the engine that are moving. The pump really is just to keep it circulating a little bit, but they literally run at about, I think it's 6 psi.
Crikey.
That's the most you'll ever get out of one. Smooth as anything. Straight 8 flathead. Yeah, I love all the wiring, the way the wiring's done. It's really something unique to Railton. We had some wood repolish that got put back in. Changed that passenger door glass because that was broken. A normal drum brake system. Piston there, pushes those out. You've got an adjuster in the bottom, so that turns. That spring's held against it, yeah? So you've got a rubber cover in the back of your back plate there. See? This is just a Clark's generic drum brake kit. So that's your brake adjuster. So you stick that through the hole, whichever way you want to go. So the spring makes it go in notches, and as that winds up, it spreads your adjuster.
Yeah.
So then on your drum, you've got a cover plate there. So when it's on, you can take that off, and then you can put feeler gauges in, see what clearance you've got all the way around. But also as well, when it comes off, you'll see them better. You've got what they call snail adjusters, and that will push the centre of the brake shoe out. each side, but when it comes off you'll see that. Pin, these are just your retaining pins, so you've got another tool there. Put that on, turn it, and that comes off. Just a handy little kit that. Not a lot of money, but just a handy tool kit.
How would you do it without the right tools?
You can just do it with a pair of pliers, but it is a handy, especially if you're putting them back on, it's a very handy tool.
Yeah.
So all it is, you've got your pin like that. Basically that's a bottom one, that's a top one, so you've got a slot that way, push that in there, and then once it's spring loaded you turn it the other way and that holds it in, yeah?
Yeah.
That's the spring off of there, that's to hold that one back on. You've only got one adjuster, I thought it had two, but you've only got the one. There you go. So when I take them apart I tend to put them all in the size they came out of, yeah?
Yeah.
So you don't get lost with it. And that's that. That's that. That goes on the end of there, so put that side. Put that side. Right, it's only got one adjuster on that, I thought it had two. So what that'll be is, you undo the lock nut on the back. If you watch that, if you watch this, it's eccentric, see it?
Yeah.
So that's your furthest out, because it hits on the back edge of that. So you want to set that up, so it's at its lowest point, which is there, to start with, yeah? If you're servicing the brakes, yeah, just changing your shoes, and you don't want this to come out, to lose any hydraulic fluid, you get these come in the kit. So you just put that in there, and just hold your pistons in, yeah?
Okay.
That's what they're for. But first of all, I've got to try and get this flexi hose off, which is going to be, I think, easier said than done looking at that. Right, so you got your flexi hose there, yeah? You see that nut there? That's your actual brake union, brake pipe union. So you've got to undo that one, then hold that one, and undo the big lock nut on the back of there.
Easy peasy.
Oh yeah.
So why wouldn't the brakes have been working then?
It's probably the master cylinder's had it, but Gordon's bought all the stuff to change it, so you might as well change it, you know. Sometimes the flexis, where they're so old, they can collapse in the middle.
Yeah.
So even though you're pushing your foot on the brakes, all it'll do is expand that and not get any pressure down to the pistons. Right, it might be easier just to take that shock absorber out, I think. To get a seal on that, because obviously you've got high pressure brakes, yeah? That has got what you'd call a female end on it.
Okay.
And that inside there has got a female end on it. So the correct hose for that should have a point on it, or it doesn't reach the end of it and you put a sealing washer on here.
Yeah.
Right, so that's got a sealing washer on it. As I said, I don't think these hoses will wind in far enough, even with a copper washer on it. So let's see what we've got. Let's try one. I don't know, it might do it. Right, so that isn't threaded as far. See, this is like I've always said before, your repro parts and that, they're just not made well. So the thread isn't cut deep enough down into that.
Yeah.
So I'll have to tap it out. But you want to take all the insides of the pistons out first. And if you can see that thread is cut all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah.
If you look at the other one, which is the one we've got to use because of the offset of the... See? It's not threaded all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah.
So that isn't allowing that to screw in far enough to seal it on the washer.
Yeah.
So now you've got to find a tap, tap that out, and then that will allow us then to screw that all the way down to the bottom.
Okay. So how do you find the right thread?
Right, so your first thing you want to do is check your diameter of that. So that's reading 11mm, which is basically 7/16, the equivalent of, yeah?
Okay.
So you know you're looking for a 7/16 tap. You can get what I call a thread gauge. So this will tell you all of those teeth on these, yeah? They're all numbered up. So you've got 62, that's 62 teeth per inch. That's 40 teeth per inch, 36, so 20 should be right. See, I don't know what this one is, so that would be wrong. Put it on that one, and it fits perfectly, you see?
Okay.
So we know then, check that on there, that fits perfectly. So it's 7/16 by 20 teeth per inch, TPI.
Okay.
So I know that that tap, 7/16 NF20, so that's 20 TPI. And that's a third cut tap, that's a second cut tap, and then you'll get a first cut tap. That's a first cut tap, see? So if you're starting,
yeah,
you go in with one of those because it's progressively making the hole bigger.
Yeah.
Then you go in with one of those, which is secondary cut, then that's a third cut. But I can only use a third cut on that because it's a blunt end. If you're going all the way through into just a hole, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you can go up to the top of the shank there. But because I've got a blind hole, I need to get the thread down as far as I can.
Okay.
So you use that one. Right, so let's cut this down a bit. Put him in there, I think. See how far down that's gone.
Is there a feel to it?
Yeah, definitely. Especially on smaller taps, you can just, if you snap a tap off in a hole, they're virtually impossible to get out.
Really?
Without mullering whatever you're tapping. Yeah. Right, I'll say that's cut deep enough now, but we'll just see all that crap. That's why I took it all apart. See all the rubbish in the bottom.
Yeah.
That's where you've been cutting, so you need to get rid of all of that before you put the piston back together. There's one bit of that in there, get caught behind that rubber, and that's the end of that.
Yeah.
It'll tear the rubber or just leak like hell. Sweet. So now that's a nice seal. When you nip it up, that'll be good. That sits in there. That goes that way. Right, most things, when I say don't over tighten them, these brake lines, you can give them a fair old bit of welly, and that just seats the copper washer in. So that's good. When the suspension's down, that'll probably be long enough, so ain't the end of the world. Tight enough. Yeah, that'll be alright. Right, so that's your cylinder replaced and your hose replaced. Now we can just build the shoes back up. What you want to do as you go in is try and dry off anywhere that's got brake fluid. Just try and dry it off, so when you fill it back up again, you'll know if it's leaking.
Yeah.
All of these faces, look where everything goes. Just use a small piece, small bit of copper slip on it. That's all it needs, just a little wipe. You didn't come with us when we picked these up, did you?
No.
It's this one. I can't remember which wheel it was. I think it was that side back C solid. We had to drag it up the driveway.
Really?
I like to try and get all the brakes apart on the bloke's driveway. Did it in the end, but it was pissing with rain. Hence why you should copper slip everything.
So the wheel wasn't even turning then?
Oh no.
Oh.
Far from it. So if you copper slip everything when you're putting it together, you got half a chance of it working and staying free, you know?
Is copper slip the best thing to use?
Yeah.
What's the difference between like a copper slip and like just in standard grease?
This is the copper in it just makes it smoother. Everything. It's almost like putting a layer in there. It just makes things move easier than standard grease.
Okay. Let's see. What's the purpose of the springs?
These springs?
Yeah, what do they do?
Just return the brake shoes. Literally it.
Yeah.
So as that expands out and your brakes, when you take your foot off the pedal, it just pushes it all back.
Oh, okay. Otherwise the brakes would stay on.
Yeah, to a fashion, yeah. Right. Alright, that's all in as it should be then. I've only got another 3 wheels to go.
Well, you know, by the time you get to the 4th one, you'll be an expert, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Next week on the workshop.
That's the old head gasket. So you can't really see anything blowing by on that. If you turn it up the other way, that's been blowing there, see? That's been blowing there. Anywhere it's gone dark means the exhaust gases are getting in it.
Okay.
And if the exhaust gases are getting in it, then water's going the other way, basically.